Hello and welcome back to Binging Last Season, where everything is completely normal and I'm fine. Why do you ask? You know, with every new season of anime that comes out, there are two genres that I look forward to the most, and that is isekai and fantasy, and that's because I am the worst type of person. But last summer, the isekai genre was on the struggle bus. The only show from that season that I actually really enjoyed was no longer allowed in Another World, and unfortunately for the fall, things have kind of stayed the same. And just to clarify before we get going here, I don't consider Shangri-La Frontier an isekai, I haven't watched The King of Trash yet, and I don't like ReZero. Look, if I want to watch a Japanese man get tortured in an infinite cycle of life and death, then I'll try to become a better Buddhist. I really will, but I haven't finished season 1 yet, and I'm not doing it today. Alright, let's go dumpster diving, and we're starting with Tensei Kizoku season 2. Now, I already did a video on this anime on my channel about a month ago, but put simply, I'm sad. To put it in more words, I'm drowning in an endless pit of despair. The only reason I mention that here is because after a 5-year hiatus, Maou-sama Retry is back, and I'm not watching it. I absolutely refuse. I still wake up in a cold sweat sometimes thinking about the time that High School Double D decided to change its art style. Halfway through a season, I think. It just went to another studio, I guess, and it looked like dog shit. I refuse to watch this. It looks bad. Objectively bad. And look, season 1 wasn't the best season of anime of all time, but it was goofy and stupid and I liked it because I like trash. That's what I consume. I just can't handle another bad follow-up season right now. I will defend season 1 of Tensei Kizoku until the day that I die. I think it's infinitely better than season 2, and I liked Maou-sama Retry when I watched it. I enjoyed it despite the fact that everyone else thought it was dumb and the main character looked stupid. That's the point. It's supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be having fun, guys. I'm not watching it. I refuse. Speaking of having fun in my room alone, let's talk about this douchey little bastard. His name is Haruka, and he is the main character of Loner Life in Another World. I don't know why my anime list suggests that the class president is also a main character. It's not true because Haruka is basically the only character. It starts out like any other isekai. Haruka is in his high school classroom, and for once he's actually in high school because he's sitting there thinking about all the different cliques in his class. There's the jocks over there and the bimbos at the front of the room, and I'm just sitting there like, oh shit, that was me. That's actually disturbingly accurate. Please stop. But then the transportation spell activates and starts catching people in his class, and he's smarter than everybody else, so he sort of gets away from it for longer, but eventually he gets transported to this other world, and he meets God in this blank room, and God's just like, what are you doing here? You're late. Everybody already grabbed all the cheat skills. You need to grab something from what's left. And he immediately starts talking shit because he's a little bastard. He just looks at this old man. He's just like, why don't you have any of the good stuff left? Your preparation skills are extremely lacking. I can't believe you would even summon me here without having the proper, preparation. Oh, you don't have enough skills. Shut up, old man. He smacks him in the mouth. I don't know. I think it happened. Anyway, God is tired of his yapping, so he gives him the rest of the skills that were left over and sends him packing. And surprise, the rest of the skills were actually pretty cracked. And the only time that this little bastard apologizes for the way that he has been treating these skills like they're completely worthless is when he apologizes to Villager A, because he has the Villager A set and it turns out to be somewhat useful. Arguably the worst one out of all of his skills at the end of the day. I mean, at one point he can walk on air. Turns out walking was pretty useful, but no, it's Villager A that he needs to apologize to. Oh my god. I'm getting genuinely upset because he never apologized to God. He addresses the audience and he goes, Villager A must have been a badass. And meanwhile, God's in the background you're pretty fucking disrespectful. You're not going to apologize to me? I think he should have apologized to him. I'm just saying. All that is to say, Haruka went to the Konosuba school of being an utterly contemptible person, but completely charismatic. So unfortunately, I love him. And there really isn't anybody else to love if we're being genuine. Look, there is no other character in this story that gets any development whatsoever. Everybody else is just a side character, and arguably that fits the theme really well, so I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but Haruka's our boy, we're here for him, that's what we're watching. And that means when he ends up taking in the pack of stray puppies that is all of the girls from his class, they're kind of there to be seen and not heard. Literally, look, I know I'm using, offensive phrasing intentionally. I'm being provocative, but really, genuinely, that is the point of them being there. They're there to be, they're there. We're in court. Oh, God, I'm losing it. Look, I'm only really bringing this up because I mentioned it in my Do-Over Damsel video where I was talking about how weird Japan is about women lately, but it doesn't really bother me in this show, and that's because, as one commenter pointed out on that video, it's not just the women that get treated like set dressing in the show. It's everybody who isn't named Haruka. But I gobble up trash like this for breakfast, which is why I gave Loner Life a 7 out of 10. I know I said I implied that I wasn't going to recommend this show last week, but I changed my mind. I think this appeals to the inner cringe lord in all of us that just says, oh, we're the ones who are different. We're just apart from the rest of the group. And, you know, that means that when we get sent to this foreign place, and even though we don't have the best superpowered cheat skills, we're going to make it work because we're super smart and dedicated. And then once we're done doing that, we're going to go back to our home in the forest because that's all Haruka wants to do the whole time. He gets a whole harem just following him around like sick puppies. And he's just like, to be honest, I'd like to go back to my hermit lifestyle, please. You got to respect that level of dedication. And speaking of things you should respect, make sure that you check the intro and the outro out. The music is fire. The intro is great. The outro made it onto my anime bangers playlist. So make sure you don't miss it. I also watched Spirit Chronicles this week. Oh boy. Honestly, I'm glad I missed the first season of this show in 2021 because if I had watched it back then and waited 3 years just to get this follow-up season, I'd be in the ICU right now. Let me start off by saying I thought season 1 of Spirit Chronicles was pretty solid, actually. It's one of those rare cases where there's a lot of contrasting ups and downs. I thought the action sequences and the choreography for this show were fantastic, actually, like really stand out at certain moments. I thought the story was a little bit all over the place, but I really liked the journeyman aesthetic that the main character had, where he didn't stay in one place too long or didn't stay with one person too long. We don't get a lot of that in isekai or power fantasy anime, so it was interesting to watch. And then season 2 loses most of what made season 1 stand out. The action sequences are a notable downgrade. They're not horrendous, but they're just nowhere near as good as they were in season 1. And the places that he's visiting now, they're just the places that he's already been. He's doing a lot of housekeeping. He's going, oh, you know, I gotta go back to the first place that I lived so I can collect my first wife, take her to the second place that I lived, and we're just gonna completely ignore the third place that I lived, even though it was like one of the more important things of season 1, but you know, who cares about it? I guess. Oh, but we got a climactic battle that we were looking forward to from season 1. You know, he was gonna get revenge. That was the whole point of his existence, and did you forget the part where I said that the action is a downgrade? Because I had my fingers crossed when I was watching that scene, and I was like, oh god, this could be good. They could have saved the whole budget for... Ooh, nope. Nope, it's really bad. And you know, I said I didn't love the dialogue from season 1. Season 2 is somehow infinitely worse, like significantly. Every single conversation that is had is just like, oh, I need to affirm your feelings, and they need to affirm their feelings, and we're going to talk about our feelings together, and we're going to have awkward pauses between each of our voice lines for reasons that I don't understand. I'm pretty sure you could cut this anime down into like a 6-episode run if you cut out all of the awkward pauses. Seriously, the dialogue made me want to go drown in a local puddle. And all of that is unfortunate because the one thing that this series still has going for it is that the world is huge and interesting, and there is a lot of stuff that they can cover in these stories, but the quality was just so rough this season, and there were certain things that made me struggle to finish it, which is why I ended up giving it a 6 out of 10. Honestly, that might be a little bit too high. This might deserve a 5 out of 10. I don't know if I'm just trying not to be harsh or if I'm being too harsh in this situation. I'm not really sure. It's serviceable. It's decent. I think it's at the level of other shows that I've given 6s out of 10 before. And maybe a lot of my frustration here comes from the fact that I've seen a better version of this in season 1. Season 1 was significantly better, and I feel bad for the people that were looking forward to this for the past 3 years. You guys got let down. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Nothing special to address here, and I'll see you guys next week.